Great, thanks very much, David, and thanks for all the listeners. And I reiterate, I hope everyone had a enjoyable Christmas break and are ready for a very busy 2023. We certainly are, and we're very active and very busy in our exploration. So go through the disclaimer slide. You can read that at your discretion. Having a bit of a look, and really it's an introduction to Mamba. So we have deliberately focused on Western Australian assets when we formed the company in late 2020, and we listed in February of 2021. So we're about 2 years old. We've got a small team, but a very dedicated team working very hard on our projects. Total shares on issue is around 61 million shares. As Dave mentioned, market capitalisation around about the $10 million mark, with $2.7 million in cash at the end of Q1 of this financial year, giving an enterprise value of around about $7 million. So, we've been, as the title would suggest, a hidden gem. So moving to the next slides, really, and this is a bit of a summary of where our projects are in Western Australia, and quite deliberately, we've got summer projects in the southern part of Western Australia, which we can work during, as the name would suggest, the cricket season or the summer months. And down there we have the Hyden project, which we've recently just acquired under an option, the Darling Range project, and the Great Southern Gold project as well. So 3 projects that we can work during the summer months, and then very deliberately in the winter months, when it's difficult to work in the southern wet part of Western Australia, we move to the Kimberly and the Ashburton project up in the northern part of Western Australia. Now that part is very, very prospective, but very seasonal. And as a lot of people, I'm sure, would have seen in the news recently, the seasonal flooding that we've seen there. This flooding has been far more substantial than most years, but you do see seasonal floods and seasonal rain events in the north. So we need to keep ourselves busy with very deliberately a northern and southern exploration project style, so we can work on both areas year round and provide news flow year round. So moving through the southern projects at the moment, that's where our focus is, and the project that we acquired in November under option, which is actually a rare earth project. Its rare earths are certainly on the critical metals lists for most governments around the world at the moment, and very, very sought after and needed for the decarbonisation of the economy going forward. So looking at the project itself and the Hyden project, most people wouldn't know where Hyden is, but it's around about 300 kilometres to the east of Perth in the wheat belt of Western Australia. In the project that we acquired, we got 4 granted exploration licences and the rare earth rights to all of those tenements. And on top of that, we pegged in 100% in our own right 5 new exploration licences around them. The areas had very, very little exploration for rare earth elements in the past, and really the one highlight was there were only 3 samples taken and assayed for a full suite of rare earth elements to date by the vendors of the project. We identified a very, very high grade clay sample of 46,000 plus change parts per million of total rare earths, which is incredibly high for clay hosted mineralisation. And we now need to understand what that means. The other really interesting part about rare earths, and not that many people know much about them, they are very niche. There's a very high proportion in that drill sample of heavy rare earths, which are as the name would suggest, the heavier end of the rare earth spectrum, with around 37% of the total rare earths being heavy rare earths. Also, the NdPr accounts for around 26%. Now, NdPr is important for permanent magnets, and that equates for around about 26% of the total rare earths. So very, very interesting and high grade heavy rare earth and NdPr. Interestingly enough, this is only part of the story. The clay mineralisation we've identified is part of the story. There's also a very significant gravity anomaly that we've identified from regional data just to the east of that sampling, and that really provides another target and another style of mineralisation that we're exploring for. So going to the next slide. So why have we got grades of this kind of magnitude in the area? And the answer is we don't know. It's a bit too honest for some people, but really that's the truth. Most clay deposits are around about 800 ppm to 2000 ppm. So this at 46,000 is incredibly high. That could be one of three reasons could explain that. The first one, we may just have stumbled across the highest grade rare earth clay deposit globally. Now, I think the chances of that are incredibly unlikely, but that is a possibility. I don't think that's going to be the case, however. The second option to explain that high grade is there's graphite has been mapped and drilled nearby, and graphite quite often can be a sink, a metal sink, if you like, for all metals, but could be a sink for the rare earths as well. So that could explain locally why we've seen higher grade total rare earths. The other option is there may actually be a bedrock source of rare earths that are creating these very high grades. Now that's a really interesting potential and an interesting option, and that's part of the reason I mentioned the gravity anomaly, which is off to the east of the area that's been drilled. So that could be the source. Now that's a little bit unknown at this stage, and that's why we're doing the drilling at the moment. And we've commenced a drill campaign there, testing the distribution of the clay mineralisation, as well as a detailed gravity survey over the gravity anomaly to the east to better understand the reason for the high grades and what is controlling them. So moving to the next slide, you can see three separate images here. On the left-hand side, that's the geological mapping and the drilling that our vendors that we have acquired the option from had done targeting the graphite. And you can see the graphite is in the GT in red there. And you can see the location of the gravity anomaly just to the east of that in white. The central image is a magnetic image, total magnetic intensity. And you can see again a magnetic feature running associated with that gravity anomaly. And on the right-hand side, the gravity data, regional gravity data itself. So that anomaly is around about 2.8 kilometres by 2.2 kilometres. So we need to understand that system better before we start drilling that system. That's why we're doing the gravity survey at the moment. So moving to the next slide and the next project, the Darling Range project. Now, I'm sure a lot of the viewers or listeners would have seen the discoveries and phenomenal growth that Chalice have had, discovering the Julimar deposit just outside of Perth. Well, our Darling Range project, if you go to the next slide, is around about 30 kilometres from the Julimar discovery, just outside of Perth, in the western portion of the wheat belt. Now, on the image on the right-hand side, you can see the Julimar project and the trend, Chalice's magnetic trend running through that state forest area in red. Where we are is around 30 kilometres further to the northeast rather, and we've identified a 6 kilometre long trend running through our tenement package. So moving to the next slide, and you can see a couple of images here. On the left-hand side, they've got a 6 kilometre long PGE, so platinum group element anomaly that can be traced through the farmers' paddocks. On the right-hand side, we've identified ultramafic and mafic rocks that run and follow that trend. And then on top of that, gravity anomalies as well. So really quite an interesting target. We've tested the northern one. We're yet to test. We've just got ground access to the south, and we're drilling that. Done ground EM. That modelling is now underway, and drilling is scheduled for this month as well. So we're very active on that area. Very quickly moving to the Great Southern Project, our third of our summer projects. Funnily enough, is in the Great Southern. That's the geological map, and you can see in that area a 4 kilometre long trend. we've been focused on drilling on an area just in the southern prospect, and there's an image there. If you click to the next, just move forward a little bit, just in that box there, is the drilling that we completed in November of last year. Excuse me, that drilling has been completed, and we're now waiting for assays. But just zooming on that area in particular, that's a 4 kilometre long trend running through that area. Just forward a little bit. So there's a 4 kilometre long soil anomaly. We've soil sampled that, got up to 2.8 grams per tonne, and a lot of other high grades in soils. We've only drilled a very small portion of the southern part of that. 32 holes drilled early last year, and excuse me, and a lot of mineralisation identified, very shallow as well. So next slide. You can see that drilling, very shallow drilling to the north. Moving forward up to our winter projects, so the Kimberly Project, I'll only talk about Copper Flats. It's a large tenement package running from the Northern Territory border off to near Halls Creek. Next slide. It's a very large tenement package, as I mentioned, and really we're exploring and focusing just on the right-hand side there on the eastern part of that area to the northeast. Next slide. So we've got a number of separate targets for mineralisation in the area. The surface sampling's identified some very high-grade copper. If you move through the next animation, you'll see a number of magnetic features that we've identified and traced. We're now doing soil sampling on the next image. You'll see some soil sampling across to the east, and then a large area of EM that we are flying this year. So in summary, we've got a number of projects. The summer projects are our current focus with Hayden. We've secured the project. We're doing a gravity survey at the moment and drilling at the moment. At Darling Range, we've completed some ground EM. That modelling's been undertaken now and moving towards diamond drilling this month. The Great Southern, we did some more drilling in November, waiting for assays, and then further drilling probably in Q2 of this year. And the Kimberly, while it's currently very wet up there, we've got a lot of exploration planned and large EM survey planned for this year as well. So we've got a lot going on. This start to January has probably been relatively quiet for a lot of people in the exploration game. For us, it's been the opposite. We've really been very, very active, and it's a very exciting time for us moving forward. So David, I'll pass the mic back to you. Sorry, David, I can't hear you.
No, sorry about that. That was me. Thanks, Mike, for a great presentation. Clearly, a company that is very systematic with its exploration, a very clear dual strategy with the northern and the southern projects, and a lot has been done, but a lot to be done. How active, like you said, January's been very active, but how active do you suspect the next 12 months will be, and how much work is going to be going into the drill programs across the portfolio?
Yeah, interesting question. Look, we have had, as I think a lot of junior explorers and junior companies have, the infancy of the company life is challenging, and we did have a challenge in late 2021 and mid 2022, but now we're really hitting our straps and being far more active. The southern area, because a lot of their projects are under farms. We are limited as to when we can get access to those farms because of we don't want to interfere with the farmers' grain production. So we're really busy after they've harvested and before they put the next year's crop in. So we're very busy in the southern targets now. We'll be drilling. We have drilled in the Great Southern area in November. We will be drilling in the first half of this year down there, drilling at Hayden now and Gravity now. I think there'll be another drill program there before May. The Darling Range project drilling, we've been hampered by land access. Now that has largely been resolved now with agreements with 2 farmers that will allow us to get access and drill those targets. So that will be happening this month, which is very exciting. And so all lining up really well for us there. So that will be really active. The northern areas are going to be difficult, particularly this year. The Kimberly, with the flooding and the damage that's been done to regional infrastructure up there, or appears to have been done, it hasn't been fully assessed yet, will make access up into the Kimberley far more difficult for us, probably for the first 6 months of this year. Fortunately, we're actually undertaking an airborne survey up there, so we'll actually be able to still undertake those activities, but drilling may be impacted by just our ability to actually get to site. Unfortunately, the bridge at Fitzroy Crossing, for example, has been damaged. That's being assessed now, and whether we can even get through that way, or whether we have to drive up via Northern Territory. It's a long way around, but if that's what we have to do, that's what we will do. But it's a difficult stages right now. But we will work through that and keep busy with the drill rig, but also other exploration as well.
Shareholders love news flow. Exploration and drilling and other sample activities generate lots of news flow. So there will be lots of news flow coming from Mamba this year. We look forward to following it with interest. Mike, thanks for your time, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Great. Thanks, David, and thanks for all the listeners and FM Financial News Network for the opportunity.